we go. Okay. All right, welcome into our second episode of our podcast. We're here at an early Saturday morning. It's 7 a.m. my time, a little bit later for these other two, but we are here for our second recording, and we are happy to bring it back to you. Look at the smile on Cody's face. I bet he can taste the earwax. It, of course, Utah beating USC for the second time in the Pac-12 title game last night. Pretty impressive there. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
7 sacks in that game.
7 sacks. It was just a showing of dominance on defense. And to be fair, their all-star quarterback was hurt. But when it comes to football, next man up mentality, keep going out and doing what you want to do. I remember hearing that Lincoln Riley said that Caleb Williams refused to be taken out of the game. So, that's awesome that he wants to do that. But to be fair, he was hurt. But also got to give credit where it's due.
Yep. Okay, we have changed up a little bit of the format of our podcast. We are going to be talking about a fan moment, something that we were there to witness, whether it's live, whether it's watching it on the TV, something that we can experience as a great moment. And Dustin had this idea, and so he's going to start us off. And Dustin, if you want, I can just share our screen and play that moment.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to start with. Yeah, we can play that moment and then talk a little bit about it. As he pulls that up, little context. This is Game 7, 2019 Eastern Conference Semifinals, Toronto Raptors versus Philadelphia 76ers. If you're a fan of the NBA, you probably know what moment we're talking about. This is the shot. Yeah, let's play about, 40 seconds of this or something.
You got to be aware of the inbounder here if you're Philly. It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger? Fourth quarter points by Kawhi Leonard. And the game winner, 41 points.
So me, I follow the NBA. I love basketball, and just watching this happen live, I was standing up behind the couch watching. I was hoping for a Toronto win, and see him drive to the baseline, fade away, super lofted shot, and hits the rim, and everybody you could see on the TV, everybody in the arena, you could see Kawhi Leonard squat down just to watch, see what's going to happen, and me holding my breath watching it, and bounces, 4 times on the rim and drops. And it was just such a tense, fantastic, emotional moment for everyone watching. There's just so much, I don't even know what the word to say, excitement in the air as watching it bounce on the rim before it falls down. And it's such a meaningful time. It's probably one of the most meaningful and memorable shots in recent NBA history, and especially since the Raptors went on to win the finals, beating the Warriors 4-2. Just a memory that I automatically go to thinking about basketball and future Hall of Famer Kawhi Leonard. What are you guys' thoughts rewatching and thinking about that moment?
I remember watching it live as well, and I had come in. I was doing something else, maybe working or something, and so I finished watching it from the fourth quarter on, and watching Kawhi Leonard's performance in that fourth quarter was insane. I think I'm trying to remember exactly the game flow, but they were down most of that fourth quarter, if I recall, and they had come back on the back of Kawhi Leonard, who makes these shots that no one else should be able to make, like the one that he made there. I mean, out on a basketball court, trying that kind of shot, lofting it up while fading away right at about the 3-point line. I'd say I could make that one out of every 1,000.
Yeah.
And not to mention you have a 7'1" guy in your face, and so that shot was incredible. It was a series defining, it was an NBA, it was a season defining shot from Kawhi Leonard. And maybe career defining shot from Kawhi Leonard. And you think about the larger context of that shot, of that game, of that series, of that season. If he doesn't make that and it goes into overtime, let's say the 76ers win, the 76ers probably beat the Warriors in the finals too. Just because those were the two best teams in the NBA. Of course, no one expected Klay Thompson to injure his Achilles in the finals. That had a lot to do with it. Kevin Durant did it too. So the Warriors kind of were victims of their own championship run. So many things ran into it. And so whoever faced the Warriors probably wins that. And so you look at the 76ers, who haven't been back to the finals since 2000. That's also a franchise defining moment in a negative way for the 76ers.
Yeah. With what you were saying, Scott, like you said, with you trying to take that shot, make one out of maybe every 1,000. And for me, I'm like thinking, yeah, the other 500, I'm airballing. And so, or he, I'm just getting that ball just, shot right back in my face. It's just amazing what that guy can do. And I remember watching kind of like the end of it as well. And I was thinking about at that point for both sides of fan bases, that feeling is just so exhilarating. Is seeing someone, something like the game is being decided, at this moment, and whether you're, for the Raptors or not, you have that feeling building up, and it is just so intense. It's so exciting. That's what the fan experience is all about. I love that. And so, and then, if you're not on the Raptors side, your heart just sinks when he makes that. But if you are on the Raptors side and you're rooting for that, or you're just loving just talent and you're watching this happen, there's nothing like that. And that's just amazing when it comes to the fan experience. And I remember feeling that myself, and feeling every time I watch that highlight rerun. It's just amazing. It's just so fun to watch, and it really makes you. It just makes sports great. I just love sports because of that.
Yeah, to close this memory out, I think that that visual of the ball's first bounce on the rim and Kawhi Leonard goes down into a squat, just hoping. I think so many of us, maybe not to the same degree, know what that feeling is. Just so much exhilaration, excitement, anticipation. It's such an exciting and probably one of the best photos in sports journalism history. Is Kawhi Leonard just squatting down, waiting to see what's going to happen. And then just the note on Kawhi Leonard is, when he's healthy in his prime, he's potentially the best player in the NBA, or at least was in 2018, 19, 20. And just so exciting to watch him. And yeah, injuries aside, probably the player most like Michael Jordan. Fantastic defender, and then his mid-range shot is unguardable.
I think about something you just said. How many? No one. When you shoot a basketball shot, you don't have the rarely do you ever have he crouches down to see if it goes in. Like, how many times do you get that opportunity to watch it bounce around the rim 4 times and have to crouch down and watch that shot? It either goes in or it doesn't, and 98% of shots. And so, and then also watching Kawhi Leonard, who was famously emotionless, the way that he reacted at the end of that shot too, at the end of that game. And on the other side, the way Joel Embiid reacted, he I think what we didn't see in that was him walking off the court in tears toward the locker room. So yeah, sorry, Dustin. Do you want to finish anything else up?
Oh, this is great. We can move on. I encourage those listeners, go rewatch whether that's that YouTube clip or the whole game. It's a fantastic game. It's a defensive struggle. The score was 92-90. That's a shockingly low scoring game for modern NBA basketball.
Okay, we are picking up a little bit where we left off last week, finishing up some NFL topics before we move over to the NBA. And the goal is that we can get through a lot of the NBA, and so we want to move through this as quickly as we can. Let's finish up a little bit of Cowboys discussion. We were rushed at the very end of last week I remember leaving off as we were talking about, or Dustin was saying that maybe the Cowboys are better when Ezekiel Elliott is not on the field. And I think that's there's a lot of truth to that. You look at one of the big reasons I think they have Ezekiel Elliott in the game is that Ezekiel Elliott is so much better as a pass protector, as a pass blocker. But does that really justify him being in the game more than Tony Pollard, who is an extremely a great athlete? He's by far the more explosive athlete, both in the running game and certainly the passing game. And so, looking down the road, the Cowboys host the Eagles on Christmas Eve, a game that just may decide this division, and that'll be really, really huge going forward. Any closing thoughts about the Cowboys? I wanted to throw that little bit in that we didn't get to do last week. Cody, Dustin, do you have any closing thoughts on the Cowboys before we move on?
I think just a little bit of what I want to add is with what you were talking about with Tony Pollard, how he's explosive in the both run game and the passing game. That's what this day and age NFL running back needs to be. That's what the teams need, is both. They can't just be a single dimensional player in just the running game. And Ezekiel, he's a big back. He's a big back, but he's really not that good in the passing game. And because of that, I do think he really hinders the Cowboys. The Cowboys are better with Tony Pollard on the field than Ezekiel Elliott because of that. And I honestly wonder when they're going to figure that out, or if they even will, if they'll ever admit it to themselves. I don't know if they will.
Yeah. It is so. Moving on in our topics, we had a discussion about the Bills planned. I kind of want to just skip it. Does anyone like the idea? Are the Bills in trouble? That was the idea, and I think the answer is no. Does anyone have any thoughts about that, or can we move on?
I would just say the three teams that they lost to, Dolphins, Jets, and Vikings, 2 years ago, you would have said, oh man, Bills are in terrible trouble. But all those teams are good this year. They're good teams. They're not in trouble. They lost to good teams.
Yeah, I think the only thing is that they're turning it over at the worst times, like right at the goal line where the Vikings recover for a touchdown. Like, they have some problems turning it over, but they're still explosive. They're still winning games. They just dominated the Patriots in Boston on Thursday night. They're fine.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, are there some things to fix? Yes, but are they in trouble? No, they're gonna be just fine.
Okay. There are two other NFL topics. Cody, do you want to pick one?
Yeah, let's talk about the reigning Super Bowl champions, Rams. What the heck is happening there? We Cooper Cup obviously was the Super Bowl MVP, rightfully so. He's injured now. That's understandable. Matthew Stafford was out with concussion protocol, but there's still a lot of talent on that team. What the heck's happening there?
Yeah. So looking at it and doing a little bit of research this week and last week, obviously, I think there's three things that have happened. One, that offensive line is a mess. Andrew Whitworth retired at left tackle. Two of their better offensive linemen, David Edwards at left guard, Brian Allen at center. They've played in only 4 of their games due to injury. And they're starting guys like Bobby Evans, third round pick out of Oklahoma, who is horrible this year, and Chandler Brewer, an undrafted guy out of Middle Tennessee, who is worse. Their receiving core is one player. This is point number 2, and that player is injured. Cooper Kupp was the best receiver last year by every metric. He's a perennial Pro Bowler, but we forget that last year they had Odell Beckham Jr. too. They had Robert Woods. This year it was just Kupp and Allen Robinson, who Matthew Stafford didn't trust. And looking back at some of the research, Matthew Stafford has a history of doing just this. When he had Calvin Johnson in Detroit, Megatron, maybe the most physically gifted player to ever play the wide receiver position, Stafford looked at him and no one else. And who wouldn't, right? It was always to Calvin Johnson. Dustin, Cody, name one other receiver that played with Calvin Johnson in Detroit. You can't, right? But it's now the same deal. It was only Cooper Kupp. Stafford doesn't trust anybody else. It's his Calvin Johnson experience back to Cooper Kupp. And that's Stafford's problem. And it didn't show up last year because there were other elite receivers that Stafford could trust. And he's now completely given into his one-man show. And the fact that Stafford obviously has a concussion, they're starting Bryce Perkins at quarterback doesn't help at all. But
yeah, I think stuff that's going on with the Rams. I enjoy the change that the NFL is seeing. I mean, look at the macro level, and like I mentioned a few minutes ago, teams that 2 years ago, were 4-win teams are now 8 or 9-win teams, and it's really exciting to see that. I love the change. I love that the future Hall of Fame players we're seeing the decline that normally happens towards the end of their career. I don't like to see, these great players that I respect struggle, but it's fun to see the change in the NFL happening and the switch. It's good to see. And I like that the Rams are part of that.
Yeah. Just to finish that topic out. I 100% agree. It's refreshing to see teams that we're not used to seeing still vying for the playoffs at this point in time. And kind of like what you were saying, Scott, about Cooper Kupp, when there's only one player you're throwing to, I mean, it's obvious what defenses are going to do. Double team, triple team, Cooper Kupp. And then he gets injured. And so it's like, okay, well, now we can easily cover everyone else because there's no one else who's nearly as good. And then Matthew Stafford's a great quarterback. He's out with concussion protocol, or he's coming back in, I think. Not this week, but next. And you can't do anything when you don't have your main player, your main 2 players. But I do wonder how much of it is there a coaching problem? I don't think so, but I do wonder that.
Well, first of all, I think they're talking about shutting Matthew Stafford down for the season.
I did not hear that.
The reason is that he has a neck injury along with the concussion, and obviously you don't want to mess with that. The Rams are not getting into the playoffs this year. They're a 3-win team, and so they're thinking about just shutting him down for the rest of the season. That's a story I read, at least.
Okay, I didn't hear that.
But I want to do one more dive into something else about the Rams that maybe can elicit something else, and that's from a general manager standpoint. The Rams have had a different draft strategy than everyone else in the league. They trade their picks for established veterans. And you see that happen in the NBA. I mean, Dustin, if you remember the Brooklyn Nets uh, trading every single one of their picks for about 5 years to get Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, all of these established veterans, and it backfired horribly for the Nets. And I think it's about to happen for the Rams too. I mean, the Rams have not had a first round pick since Jared Goff was taken first overall back in 2016. And 2 of those years, including this last draft, they haven't even had a second round pick. It worked for them last year because they traded their top picks for Von Miller and Odell Beckham Jr., who were each there for half a season and no longer. So you get these half a season rent guys, and it worked out for them. They won the Super Bowl. But you have to take into account this draft strategy that now they don't have any home built players, and it's going to hurt them.
Yep, it's a win now strategy. It's an all in, using a poker term. It's all in right now this round to win, and it worked last year. And you should expect the fall off for a team like that to be a lot quicker than you normally see with a Super Bowl winning team. Usually they're dynasties, last for years and years. But no, with an all in strategy, it falls. To relate it back to the NBA, you mentioned the Nets and how that fell. Look at the Lakers. They won the finals in 2020 on that same exact strategy, bringing in LeBron, bringing in all these players by trading away picks, and now they're going to miss the playoffs for the 3rd year in a row, probably.
Yeah. Okay. If we can finish up the NFL and jump to the NBA, I think this one will be pretty quick. The question is, should Tua Tagovailoa be in the MVP conversation? And before just saying yes or no, just a little bit of background. Tua Tagovailoa has the best quarterback rating by more than 10 points over the next closest player right now. The next closest player being Geno Smith, by the way. He also has the second best completion percentage, over 70%, which is significant, considering he's not just dinking and dunking. He's throwing it down the field to Tyreek Hill, to Jalen Waddle for big completions down the middle of the field. He has the 5th most touchdown passes, and he's tied for the 2nd fewest interceptions with Jalen Hurts of starting quarterbacks. Only Tom Brady having fewer. And he has done it all. This is also significant while playing in 2 fewer games because he had a concussion than everyone else. And he's also looking at advanced metrics. He has the best on-target percentage of his throws, meaning that, whether they're completed or not, if some guys drop a ball or whatever, his on-target percentage is greater than 80%. And right now he sits at 4th in the odds-on favorite for quarterback race for the MVP race, behind Patrick Mahomes, who's number 1, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts. So Mahomes is maybe the flashiest player, and on the best team, which the best player on the best team has a good shot at winning the MVP. But why isn't Tua getting the love, and should he? That's the question.
Yeah, he should. He definitely should. I was just looking at some of those stats as well, and as of currently 19 touchdowns against 3 interceptions. At this point in the season, I understand there's a lot of quarterbacks with a lot more touchdowns, but that ratio is insane. It's incredible. And as you were saying, best percentage completion rate. I think he's just not getting the love because of. I think they're really comparing. Maybe they're comparing it to, the flashy kind of people you're talking about. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, people that kind of are, a little bit more blingy, like in that kind of way. But he's been made better, and he's making better. Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek Hill has come over to, and Jalen Waddle has come over to the Dolphins, and they make him better, but he also in turn makes them look better. And that is, I think, where his credit is due, is he's making already all-star players look even better as well. He deserves to be in the MVP conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah, my answer to the question is yes. Should he be in the MVP? Should Tua be there? Yes, he should. Unfortunately, looking at it, my perspective, maybe a little controversial here, is the NFL is a business, and having the star power be at the top of the list or even win the award, having Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen be at the top of the list or even win the award is better for business. And I hope that it goes to a player like Jalen Hurts or to a Tagovailoa. But I just fear that the star power's gonna win out, that the most popular player is gonna win out.
Definitely very possible. It'd be great to, I mean, if we're talking MVPs, why isn't Justin Jefferson in that conversation?
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley.
Right. It's because he's not a quarterback, right? But I wish that wasn't the case. But Justin Jefferson should be in that conversation.
Yeah. Do you know? I don't know. When was the last time a non-quarterback won the MVP?
Let's just do a little bit of research and find out. I think it's going to be Adrian Peterson in 2010, 20, something like that.
Yeah, I wish that they would spread the wealth around a little bit more.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson in 2012.
10 years.
Okay. Anything else about?
Let's move on to basketball.
Basketball.
Okay. Dustin, do you want to pick a topic here? Oh, I guess I got to put them in the
Yeah,
chat.
hold on here. Yeah, I'm making
Sorry.
sure things are here. Yeah, if you could make sure we have our list of topics.
Yeah. I'm asking you guys to read my Microsoft Word that I'm not sharing. So there we go. Okay.
All right. Let's we'll jump in with Luka Doncic. Definitely one of the more popular. He's been, an all-star starter last several years and been an all-star captain several years. Extremely young player, but become one of the most popular and one of the best, most talented players in the NBA. And so the question here is, has Luka Doncic taken over the mantle of best player in the NBA from Stephen Curry? Which, let's make it clear, Stephen Curry has been the best player in the NBA for the last several years. I think looking at this season so far, the answer is absolutely yes. Best player in the NBA right now, Luka Doncic. Comparing him to Stephen Curry, who is not only future Hall of Famer, 4-time champion, and in my opinion, the best point guard to ever play the game. It's hard to make that comparison because you're comparing current against legacy. But yes, currently right now, Luka Doncic is absolutely the greatest player. And I love to see that, if you made a list of top 10, half, if not more than half, are going to be international players. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a great thing for the game to have so much global spotlight.
Yeah. I put together some research, but it was last week, so these numbers may have changed, but probably not all that much. He was averaging 34 points a game, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, almost averaging a triple-double. The only mark on his game that is usual, he wasn't shooting the 3-ball very well at all. That's probably because he's jacking up a full volume of them, but he was like about 30%, which, I couldn't shoot the 3-ball 30%, but I'm not an NBA player. So, but he's scoring all over the place. He's setting up teammates and doing everything for this team. But the question, I mean, right now he would be my MVP, regardless of where the Mavericks end up. And I'm saying that because as of last week, they were in 8th place in the Western Conference. I don't know if they've gone up or down. I haven't checked that, but so it's just a question of if I don't know if the Mavs can be even considered championship contenders, but Luka is an MVP candidate for sure, and the front runner, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought what you said was interesting, Dustin, that, legacy being compared to current. From what I've seen, Steph Curry owns that title of best player. Luka has been phenomenal. And they, from what I looked at, Luka has been scoring more points per game as on average than Steph Curry as of recently. But they're also surrounded by different, I guess, teammates, different teams, that kind of teams that they play on. And so I wonder, honestly, how easy it is to make that comparison. And I mean, I think for me, I'm going to say no. Steph Curry still holds that title. But it can change pretty quickly and pretty easily, I think. And so I think that it has to deal with their points per game, and which is pretty similar. But Steph Curry, I think, I think, in my opinion, still owns that.
It's like saying that they're the champions until, I mean, the Rams are still the champions, right? Until someone else takes it from them, even though that's not going to be it's going to be the case this year, right? So,
yeah, and it's interesting, looking at, we're talking about these two players and current standings as of today. The Warriors are 8th in the West, and the Mavericks are 11th in the West, right? So we're talking about two players that we're saying, oh, are they the best? And they're both in danger of missing the playoffs, right? Obviously, the season is young, and you look at who's at the top of the West is Phoenix, Denver, New Orleans, Memphis. Those are the top four, right? And so, yeah, best player does not always mean best team, right? And that's something really, really fun about basketball, is it's a team sport and all of that. And this discussion, maybe we can table it for another day where we talk about a healthy Zion Williamson and how he's helping the Pelicans be a top team in the West. And something we can revisit. That'd be fun to talk about.
Yeah. Let's see. We probably have time for one more topic, and let's see. I'll jump in here and pick one that I am interested in. Let's see here. Dustin, you had a question that I'm interested in exploring. Who would you build a franchise around? Would it be either Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Ja Morant, Luka Doncic? And I was interested in that topic, so I kind of looked at it, because from a standpoint of just looking at stats, you would obviously say Giannis, right? I mean, he's an MVP. He's maybe the best bully kind of player around. But I think Giannis has been in the league for a while. The way he plays basketball, his body may break down quicker than these other guys. He plays basketball the same way that people play. People take their bumper cars in the in those, what are they called? Amusement parks. He just bangs into everybody. He's a big guy. He's probably going to be fine, but I just think he's older, and he's also going to break down quicker than others based on his play style. Luka, we just talked about, he's been fantastic. He can get a little too score happy, in my opinion, forget his open teammates at the end of games. Ja Morant isn't a great teammate yet. And that may be controversial to say. I don't think he knows how to play with teammates yet. He's the youngest of those four and maybe has the most upside. But my opinion, and I'm trying not to bring my Denver bias into this, but Nikola Jokic would be the guy that I would build around. Of these four, he's the back-to-back MVP because he does everything. He can score. He rebounds better than almost anybody. He is the best passing big man, maybe in the history of the NBA.
Agreed.
And he's one of the most unselfish players in the NBA. Anyone can play with him and thrive. Jamal Murray, bring in any big star somewhere else, and I can bet you they'll fit in because of the way that Nikola Jokic plays. That's who I would build around.
Yeah, I love that answer. Not sure I agree, but I love the answer, and I don't think you're wrong. And what I expect to happen is few teams are going to be looking for Jokic-like players to draft. That the next wave of NBA superstars are going to be the point center. Centers who bring the ball up the court. It's unheard of. When you look at NBA history, it's completely unheard of. But centers who bring up the court and can pass and can shoot threes and can do play every single position, but happen to be 7 foot, 250 pounds.
So Honestly, I would build around Ja Morant. Even though, and I know you said, Scott, that he's not a good teammate, and maybe I just don't really know his personality very well, or how he handles his teammates very well. But he's young. He is extremely talented. I've seen him do some things that I'm not sure if I've seen other people do, and maybe that's just me not watching a lot. I don't know, but he is insane, and because he's young, because we're talking about building a franchise, so that's long term. He has this potential, this time to really build that humility, build that rapport with his teammates, and become a good teammate. And so, because of his insane talent and his athleticism, his young age, and his ability to lead in the future, I would definitely choose Ja.
Yeah, we're going to be cut off here, but we may pick this topic up again next week. We may not be done with this topic, but thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.